Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers, best bet, or daily package for only $2.
Well, welcome to Wager Talk Today, everybody. It's Tuesday. Teddy Covers and the Prez. 3 guests today, Teddy. Oh, my God. A jam-packed show. Steve Merrill right off the top. We're going to talk a couple of baseball games, the Dodgers-Oakland game and the Colorado Diamondbacks game. Dave Sharapan in the middle and Nick Borrman at the end to talk some Masters. I'm excited as hell about this Masters tournament. I don't know why. I feel like something's different about it this year. Teddy, how are you?
I'm doing okay, man. No complaints. How about yourself?
All good. I went 1-2 in my NBA. Raps let me down. But I won my 5% play. And man, it was easy right up until it wasn't. And then the sweat stains showed up. 4-3 win by Winnipeg. That was, I tell you, Teddy, that would have been my game of the year if we had games of the year, and we don't, which is a good thing because I don't have the emotional makeup to handle them.
I just like your sweat stain. You showing me your armpit sweat right there is maybe the single grossest thing I've seen. I don't even know when the last time I saw something grosser than that. Please leave it to yourself, buddy. No, thank you. Yeah, that'll end. Yeah. No likes,
Teddy. Look at this.
There was a national championship game last night, Prez, that I think people are more interested in than some hockey games. Let's talk about it.
Oh, I missed it. Blowout by Baylor. Wire to wire, never close. I don't have much to say about it. I read your analysis, and I want to tell everybody in all seriousness, head over to WagerTalk.com, go to Teddy Covers' page, and read his analysis on that Baylor pick and tell me if he didn't know the score ahead of time. That was as dead on as it gets, man.
Oh, I appreciate that. But there was certainly some sweat in that game, Prez. We'll have to talk about that when we come to bad beats, bad bets, and bad for the books, because there was a sweat and a half when it came to that total.
Oh, yeah, but the sidewise, I mean, it was just such a dominant performance. And, the defense that Baylor brought out was unbelievable. What a day yesterday all around, dude. Marco gets on our show, tells everybody Vegas first period winner. Andy Lang gave out the under in the first half and Gonzaga winner. You big game breakdown winner. It was just awesome, man. I'm pumped, dude. What happened last night in the world of sports?
Sure, let's get into a little bad beats, bad bets, and bad for the books. Put the recap of last night in the books before we start to look at today's game. And of course, we have to talk about that Baylor Gonzaga total. A total 160 bet down to 159 and a half. And the first half flies over. The in-game sitting at 175 and a half. It's at 120. There's still 13 minutes to play. The game's going to fly over the total. Then the pace slowed. It took till the 6-minute mark to get over 140, 77-63. It's still looking good for the over. And then 14-point Baylor lead. Does Gonzaga make a run? They do not. Crickets down the stretch of that ball game. The game just died. Both teams knew it was over. They killed clock every possession. Even a late 3 didn't help. Dead nuts over. Cash is under bets. 86-70 final stays under 159. Tough beat for over bettors. What about the Mets? So, and I got to talk about Jacob deGrom for just a moment here, but the Mets were, $2 favorites in Philadelphia yesterday, and deGrom pitched brilliantly, like he always does. The Mets have a 2-0 lead. And then, of course, the Pen gives up 5 in the bottom of the 8th. The throwing error brings in the game-losing runs. And then, of course, the Mets score 1 more in the top of the 9th to kill the under 7.5 bets. Again, this is a 2-0 game going to the bottom of the 8th. The Mets lose, and the under gets killed. That's brutal. And I'm like, deGrom, I just went back and looked. This isn't bad beats or bad bets or bad for the books. But it's worth noting, all right, since 2016, All Mets starts with DeGrom on the hill. They're 65 and 67. Their average lay price in those games, 150 or higher. It's incredible. They just don't win for their ace, and it happened again last night. Tough beat for Mets backers, tough beats for underbackers. And, of course, let's not forget the Astros. They led 3-0 in the first, 5-3 in the eighth, then a bullpen meltdown at the bottom of the eighth. Bad for side bets on Houston, bad for underbets in that ball game, 7-6 final. And it was bad for the books as well. The over bet up from 9 to 10. The late bullpen meltdown sent that game over the total. A couple of bad bets from last night. James Harden's going to play. The Nets bet up from -4.5 to -6. And Harden lasted all of 4 minutes, and the Nets win, but only by 2. No Kristaps Porzingis for Dallas. Utah got that up, -4.5 up to -5.5, -6. Man, the Mavs were hitting shots last night, and the Jazz not so much. Dallas wins the game by 8. All the Utah money was wrong. And in MLB, lots of Cleveland Indians money. The Tribe from -105 to -135. They got shut out at home by Danny Duffy and Kansas City. A couple of bad for the books worth noting. Big wise guy move on the Cavs last night. The Spurs looked gassed off of 2 overtime games in their brutal schedule, and they were. Cleveland, +9 down to +8. They won outright by 24. Tons of Twins money yesterday. That was bad for the books. They were -130 at the open, -160 at the close. They led 15-1 before a late Tigers rally. The Minnesota money not good for the books. And the Vegas Golden Knights, Prez, you talked about in the open. They were as low as -120 at the open. They were bet up as high as -160. They won the game 6-1, and there was plenty of over money too. That cashed as well. The Golden Knights took care of business. That was not a great result for the house in the NHL. There you have it, Prez. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. Yesterday's closed. Let's talk about today.
Teddy covers, everybody. Teddy, Steve Merrill joining us. Before we get into that, I just want to tell everybody, please hit that like button. I'm going to start begging again because I feel like you guys are getting a little slack. Jessica, Star, Jason, Happy, Thomas, hit that like button for us. Also, as I told everybody, I won my 5% play last night, and I got a wonderful text from Johnny D. He says, Prez, let's go get a whole lot of sales. We took my NHL season 50% off, everybody. No promo code required. Head over to WagerTalk. Check out my page. 50% off, half price for the rest of my NHL. And you all know what I'm doing in NHL. Steve Merrill, where are you? How are you? And yeah, that's it. We'll just go with that. Where are you and how are you?
I'm doing well. We're moving on from college basketball to Major League Baseball, and I'm trying to find the Baylor celebration party because I sure missed that bandwagon. Went against them the last 2 games, and I paid the price. Teddy, I kept thinking I should have had the over, and that wouldn't have mattered either. The in-game line was as high as the 170 range, guys, and then halftime it was 169.5. So that was definitely a bad beat if you had the over. But Prez, it wasn't necessarily the defense. It was that 3-point shooting. That's become the great unknown in college basketball from a handicapping perspective. And obviously Baylor, the best 3-point shooting team in the country, not a surprise, but Gonzaga didn't need it all year. But look at last night, 10 for 23, 48.4% versus 5 for 17, less than 30%. That was the difference. And if you guys can figure out a way to give me those disparities ahead of time, we can make a lot of money in college basketball next season.
Steve, let's get into it, man. We just got so much going on the show. We got to keep it tight. Dodgers versus Oakland. Dodgers -165.8 on tap. And any Cody update? What's going on?
Yeah, Dodgers are a fun team to talk about. I mean, they're loaded once again this year. They won the World Series last year. And it's, in baseball, it's so different than the point spread sports is you just have to pick the winner. And the Dodgers are going to win a lot of games this year. So the question becomes, what prices are no longer value? You're going to pay a premium. We're playing $1.70 here on the road. They just smashed Oakland last night. A's are struggling out of the gate here on the season. Oakland is now off to, a 1-5 start, I believe, for the season. 0-5. 0-5. Dodgers 4-1. But instead of laying the -170, I'll play the run line. One trend I picked up early last year to cash almost every game was the Dodgers either win by 2 runs or more or they lose outright. Now, one game this year, they have won by exactly 1 run. Overall in the season, they're 4-1. So they're 3-1 of those other games by 2 runs or more. and we're getting them at minus 105 on the run line, and it's on the road. And as Teddy knows, you're more comfortable laying run line on the road because you don't have to worry about that walk-off bottom of the ninth one-run win. So Dodgers are a play-on team. Oakland's a play-against team, and we take the minus 1.5 run line here and get a pick-em price. And by the way, Kershaw off a terrible opener. That's when they lost their game this year at Colorado. So it's a bounce-back spot, too, for one of the greatest pitchers ever. And the Oakland A's have yet to recover from getting blown out by Houston in the playoff series. They just got swept by 4 games and then lost to L.A. last night. I'm not going to overthink this one. It's the Dodgers, and I think the run line gives you the best value to pick 'em price.
Yeah, I was trying to think of questions that I could ask you on this, but to me, it's like say betting 101. You have the hot team versus the cold team. Now, with a team like Oakland, all right, that's expected to be a playoff contender, expected to be competing for the division title in AL West, and they start out 0-5, they're just getting bombed in every game. Is this one of these right now, a streak worth riding? Let's fade the A's every day until proven otherwise? Or is this simply a matchup? Hey, let's get on the Dodgers and find ways to get on the best team in baseball against a team that's struggling.
Yeah, Teddy, I think momentum is important in baseball, and everyone talks about starting pitchers. The odds makers use that heavily when setting lines, obviously. But the one consistency for the most part each day is the offensive lineup, and they do go through ebbs and flows during the season, and Oakland is cold right now. They're batting 172 on the season after their first 5 games. They've had 6 hits or less in 4 of those 5 games, so they're not hitting the ball. And now Kershaw, hey, look, there is a possibility Kershaw's hit the wall, but that was an altitude, it was in Coors Field. So I look for a bounce back here against an offense that's not hitting. Yeah, I don't think you want to try to catch that falling knife like we say a lot of times in the NBA and other sports, when teams are not doing well. And Oakland definitely fits that mold of struggling right now.
Steve Merrill. Steve, Teddy said it, betting 101. For me, and I was having a conversation with somebody about this last night. I hate stepping in front of these streaks, man. It's like, Oakland's got to get it together. That game makes me nervous, but I'm the one that punches myself in the head every day when I miss Buffalo losing 15 in a row or Houston. So, it's one of those catch-22s. How many games will Oakland lose in a row? Colorado against Arizona, and the Rockies are minus 120 with a 10.5 on board. How do we bet this one?
Yeah, by the way, just to close out that Oakland situation, Marco D'Angelo on this show months ago had a great line, I thought, one time. He said, when you're riding streaks, you could be right 20, 30 times, but you can only be wrong once. And that is a great way to look at it from a money management perspective. This game, we got 2 1-3 teams, Arizona at Colorado. Now, Colorado's just 1-3 because they did just play the Dodgers for 4 games. As I mentioned, Kershaw struggled in the first one. Dodgers came back and won the next 3, 21-13 combined. But I still think Colorado's maybe the second worst, if not the worst team in the National League. I did the preview show a week ago on Monday. We did all the National League games right here on WagerTalk TV. The Pirates had the lowest total at 59.5. The Rockies were close, though, at 62.5 wins. Dave Koken played the under as his pick on that show. I mentioned I agreed with it. So I'm not buying into Colorado as a favorite against anybody. This is another 101 here, Teddy. Taking one of the worst teams in the league, laying juice at around a minus $1.25 right now. Arizona just 1-3 also, but look who they just played on the road. They played the other great team. Dodgers are favored. Padres are the second overall favorite, not just in this division, but to win the whole thing. So Arizona going, 1-3 at San Diego, no shame. They are coming off a win in that last game, and they have a day off on Monday to travel. So I think the setup is actually better for Arizona here, and I have no problem playing any underdog against the Rockies, who should be one of the worst teams in the league this season.
Now, do we worry about track records? Because it's not like Luke Weaver has a track record that is particularly exciting at Coors Field. And for this field in particular, I'm very interested in opposing pitchers' track records. Weaver's only start here last year was pretty ugly. Does that concern you today?
Yes, and that's what kept this off actually a best bet. I do have a strong best bet at WagerTalk.com. This is not it. This was one of the games, 2 or 3 games I cut, this and the Dodger run line. And that was the big concern, Teddy, is I would have liked to see more of a track record. It's still a small sample size, so I'm not going to eliminate the play because of the bad outing. But that is an excellent point to bring up. And I'd like to talk about Coors Field in general from a handicapping perspective because it's so unique with the altitude the ball carries. The total in this game is 10.5, for example. The Oakland game, it's only 8. But Arizona also plays in probably the second most hitter-friendly ballpark where the ball travels as well. So it always catches my eye when Arizona plays Colorado because it's a divisional game. They have a lot of games here. Weaver might not have as much experience as other pitchers, but the team in general should be pretty comfortable with Colorado, including the bullpen.
Yeah, it is worth noting that Luke Weaver did throw a gem there in his only start at Coors in 2019. So last year's bad outing may not be everything that he's capable of doing. I also want to update on, there was a question about Cody Bellinger early on. He's still listed as questionable for tonight for the LA Dodgers, although so far in the season he's hitting 211 with 2 RBIs. So it's not like right now his bat is in tremendous form, worthy of moving the line, whether he plays or not.
Yeah. Awesome stuff, Steve. Thanks for joining us. I know you're kind of on a little vacay somewhere where I don't know because I'm Canadian, but I know you're sitting on your knees in a hotel room with a table on your bed. So thanks for taking the time to join us today, man.
Where does he get these stories, Teddy? It's incredible that his imagination runs with them. I appreciate you having me on, Prez.
Let me do it again. I hear you're in a penthouse suite at the Ritz by the Seine. Anyway, get out of here, man. Lots of show left, everybody. Teddy's Big Game Breakdown, Dave Sharapan, Nick Borrman, the penalty box segment, so much more. Hit that like button. Stay with us. 20 seconds.
Tuesdays is known as $2 Tuesdays at WagerTalk.com and SportsMemo.com, where you can get the hottest handicappers, best bet, or daily package for only $2.
It is time for today's big game breakdown. Let's talk a little NBA for tonight. The Raptors and the Lakers in Florida, of course. Right now, we've seen a whole bunch of money coming for Toronto, literally since the show started. This was for the Lakers since the show started. This was Raptors -2, total 210.5 about a half hour ago. Now we're talking about a pick'em price range when you look at the WagerTalk live odds screen, and the total getting bet down to 208.5. It's a Raptors team that hasn't won 3 in a row since February. All right. They're coming off a literal buzzer-beating win. Gary Trent hitting a 3-pointer at the buzzer to give the Raptors the win over the Wizards on Monday. A game they didn't cover the point spread in, but found a way to win the contest. Again, tonight's game is who wins likely to cover, obviously, in this pick'em range. It's still not a healthy team. Toronto, they don't have Kyle Lowry. Fred VanVleet was a maybe for tonight. All the Lakers money coming in right now makes me think VanVleet not likely to play. And they're without Jalen Harris and Patrick McCaw and Paul Watson, only 9 players available on Monday. The quote from Nick Nurse, Toronto's head coach, quote, "Hopefully we'll get a guy or two back here during the week. It's all day-to-day stuff. I don't know. I mean, if we can spread these 9 guys out here a little bit, a lot of them have been looking for more minutes and playing time, and here it is. So I think we should be okay. The only thing I worry about is what if something else happens? Then you're really getting thin. You're kind of at the breaking point right now. We've got to stay healthy once the ball goes up." So Nurse thinks they're going to be okay. When you read between the lines of that quote, any more injuries for Toronto and they're in trouble, but he thinks he can scrape through tonight's ball game. This is a Lakers team that's coming off a bad loss to the Clippers, and they were dominant. 104-86 in that ball game. It really wasn't that close. They trailed the whole game. They dropped 6 of their last 9. They're still playing without LeBron, without AD, without Andre Drummond, without Wesley Matthews. The quotes coming out of the game for LA stood out to me, and that's the way I'm going to look at tonight's game. Kyle Kuzma, quote, "We got to play the right way on the offensive end. Defensively, we'll be all right. Offensively, we've got to find ways to play together. Can't win games scoring in the 80s and 90s. Got to find ways to incorporate everyone." Now, they're coming up a loss to the Clippers, and the Clippers are an elite team defensively. The Raptors, not so much. I know it doesn't look like Van Vliet's going to play. And betting Toronto over without Van Vliet or Lowry on the floor takes a leap of faith. But this is a game where I'm expecting some Lakers offensive execution. I'm expecting the Lakers to have success against a Raptors team that doesn't defend the paint particularly well, or the perimeter that well, to be honest. I think Toronto will score right there with them. So I'm going to bet against this line move. Let's look at the Lakers and the Raptors over the total, 208.5. I think that's too low for a game where both teams likely to put the biscuit in the basket. So there you have it, Prez. Big game breakdown. Over between the Raptors and the Lakers. Back to you.
Yeah, it's funny. You were talking about that game right at the beginning, and I haven't done any of my NBA handicapping yet today, and I'm looking at a 208, and I'm thinking, where's Teddy going? He's got to be going with the over in this game. I mean, in this day and age, that's like a 5. I bet 4 or 5 days ago, God, I bet Milwaukee game 239 over the total. It's amazing how basketball has changed over the last 4 or 5 years. Guys, I want to give a shout out, Teddy. I didn't tell you about this. It came in late last night, but I want to give a shout out to one of our listeners, Matt Cates. He took time out of his day yesterday to send in an email, and I'm going to read highlights to you, man. I listen almost every day to multiple shows, and the wealth of information I've picked up over the last few years has been invaluable. Over the last 5+ months, I'm up over $150,000, and I know I would not have been able to sustain this without WagerTalk. He then talks about how he loves Teddy, Vino, Coke, and Ralph, and on and on and on. I got to tell you, man, that shit means so much to me. Like, in all seriousness, it's just the fact that somebody did it and took their time to send it in, and it's just kind. I just absolutely am so appreciative of that. And he singled you out, Teddy.
Well, it's funny because when I moved out to Vegas, my dad's like, what are you doing to help the world? What are you doing to make life, society better? And I'm like, this is what I'm doing, Dad. I'm like, I'm trying to bet to win, and I'm trying to help others bet to win, and that's something I enjoy, and that's something that people enjoy. And I think it is like, it may not be, I'm not feeding the homeless. No, but I'm genuinely doing something that I think can help other people.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things I've always enjoyed about sharing what I've done over the years with an audience. And I'm sure Dave Sharapan feels the same way.
Yeah, who cares what Dave Sharapan feels? The other thing, Teddy, it's funny you mentioned that, bro, because he ends the email with, anyway, just thanks, man. It's like that old saying goes, if you can make a difference in just one person's life. And that's pretty much what you said. And yeah, man, awesome stuff. Dave Sharapan, we care what you have to say. You are my favorite guest on Tuesdays at this time by far. It's not even close. It's great to see you. I put a juggling video up. I was hoping you'd do one after that. You didn't. How are you?
Great. This is my favorite appearance on Wager Talk on Tuesdays at this time. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else than right here. As far as the juggling, Prez, I mean, you're such a man of many talents. That would have never been in the arsenal had you given me a list or made lines and said, do you think I can do this? I would have bet the no, and I would have lost. So very impressive. Almost as good as your hockey picks, dude. Like, seriously, there's just something going on right now, the way you're seeing it. And, I mean, dare I say I'm impressed?
Oh,
Don't say it.
Oh,
but
get Teddy off the show now. No more Teddy.
Prez, this is what I want to know. Okay, we used to call them devil sticks. I don't know what their real names are. But why are you calling that juggling? That's not juggling. That's stick playing.
Stick playing is a thing?
I don't know. But why are you calling it juggling? It's not juggling.
Okay, but so I'll put a video up of me actually juggling if you'd like. But no, I'm a devil stick player, Teddy.
You can do that too.
Yeah, but your tweet said juggling. Everything says juggling, but at no point were you throwing things in the air and catching them and throwing them back in the air. You were playing with 2 sticks.
Okay, so I was throwing a stick. I was throwing a stick in the air and I was catching it, which is exactly how you just defined juggling.
Hold on. I think we may need to go in a different direction. Nobody wants to see Prez playing with his sticks. I mean, let's just leave it at that. We talked about oral a couple weeks ago, talking about playing with your sticks now. We need actionable info on Flex Tuesday, please.
Well, then
let's
give
start
us
with
some,
Dave. Yeah. Let's give me a little recap of what happened for the books last night in the Baylor-Gonzaga game. Good result for the house, bad result for the house. It looked to me like there was pretty much two-way action on that game. It wasn't a big decision one way or the other, right or wrong.
Yeah, no, it really wasn't. It was really one of those ones where I think the odds makers, all the boys, got it right. Put up 5. Initial money took Baylor. And it kind of sat, and you had enough money to not have to move the number. And I think the Baylor money line was fine. The game staying under, of course, somehow that game stayed under with that ridiculous pace in the first half and the first half going over. Again, the books come out ahead with the game staying under when there was no chance it was staying under until there was about 4 minutes to go, and you thought, 159, we could actually get there if they really slow down. And that was one of the ones, in the book, you felt the groan from the majority of the people, but you felt that sense of relief for the people that had the under. It was pretty good.
So when it comes to early season MLB, are the books worried about it? The books, is there a lot of action coming in baseball? And how was that opening weekend in baseball around Las Vegas and sportsbooks directors that you've talked?
It's different. It's daunting every day to throw up sides, totals, money lines, run lines, first fives, yes, nos in the first innings. It's a lot of work, but it's not a lot of action. And I think what happens, at least initially, is that it's all bet on speculation. So there's not as much wise guy action. Everybody's kind of feeling their way around. Opening day is exciting. Opening day is opening day. And for so many of us, older guys, baseball still means something. It's lost on the younger generation. Really, there's just not a lot of people that are interested in sitting and watching a game for 3.5 hours to bet it. So it's just the reality of it. But in-game wagering is starting to really take hold, Teddy, whereas you see a lot of, you can bet every inning, yes, no. You can bet first 3 innings, total, sides. You can do a lot of different things to kind of get more action in baseball. And I think the pace of baseball allows it to be a good bettable sport in-game, but it's not nearly the NBA still is king now that college basketball is done. NBA is going to carry the book at least for a little while. Hockey's doing much better, though. Hockey is really doing a lot more handle, especially in Vegas with the Knights being here in the games. When there's going to be people again, it's going to be fantastic. But, the Masters will do more than baseball this week. The Masters will be huge.
Well, let's talk some actionable info on the betting board right now in terms of we have MLB, we have NBA, we have NHL, we have Masters as, let's say, the 4 majors this week. And for tonight, anything from any of those 4 sports stand out to you today, Dave, as something that's actionable and maybe something that the pros seem to be noticing that the Joes might not be noticing quite so much?
Well, as much as I enjoyed Prez playing with the sticks, I enjoy your big game breakdown every single Tuesday. And that Laker line is so fishy to me. Big steam came on the Raptors right before, Joe called. I don't know what to make of the Lakers, fellas. I have no idea what to make of this team, but I think you're on to something with the total going over. That feels like I agree with that move. And I kind of agree with the Raptors play. Like I'm the Sixers are a bet against until further notice. Just can't do it. The late game tonight, the Bucks are laying 6.5 against the Warriors. Again, I don't know what to make of the Warriors. They're coming off this road trip. They look terrible. They got beat by 56 points earlier in the week. They're another team that's just a bet against. And then the rest of the board is really hard, I think, today in the NBA. Sixers, Celtics, toss-up game. 76ers on the road is a favorite. You got to know if Embiid's playing. It's an information game in the NBA now. Pretty simple. The NHL, my Penguins are dogs against the Rangers. Fishy. I like Pittsburgh in that game. The trash teams, Sabres, Devils, another intriguing matchup. Got to bet that game under. I think that's the one that kind of stuck out to me this morning when I was looking at the numbers. I like the under in that game. And then I don't know, Sharks, Ducks. That one feels like an over 5.5 to me. So those are the ones that I looked at prior. The baseball, really, I guess it's the bookmaker in me. I'm not really looking to play too many games early, but like a team like the A's, I'm going to bet against them every day until they win. So whatever that price is, you get Kershaw today and what I think is a discounted price because he's going against Bassett, but the A's are going to win eventually, but this may be one of those 6, 7, 8 game losing streaks. And it's just an old school way of thinking maybe, but I've seen it be very successful and a lot of sharp guys that do it. Bet against a team once they hit 3 and just keep betting against them until they win.
That's
we talk a lot about that.
Go ahead, Teddy.
Lawrence.
Yeah, shut up, Teddy.
While you were talking, Lawrence, three times he types me. He's like, "Okay, no, you go. No, I'm going to go. No, you go. I already did. All right, now you go again." So then I go, and then it starts talking. It's like, dude, settle down. All right. Dave Sharapan at SportsBK Consig on Twitter. Both of you are making very vulgar, I don't want to see his pit stains. And this for you is not a good look, Dave. It looks like you're juggling your balls, literally. Anything else you want to tell us about before we let you go? Anything that you want to promote before we let you go?
We're just doing a lot of stuff on Sports Grid and Sirius XM every day between 4 p.m. and 7 p.m. Pacific. Different shows, a lot of in-game action. So I'm sitting there watching games, watching lines, reacting to what it should be, what it is, things like that. And my podcast as well is called Cash Considerations, where we have a guest on usually every week. We talk about different things. I got to ask you guys, we did a baseball preview and we talked about hot dogs. And what is the ideal thing to put on a hot dog? And a couple controversial things, like is ketchup allowed on a hot dog ever? Some people really are anti-ketchup.
No, absolutely.
Ever. And onions. Prez, do you put onions on a hot dog?
Sure, onions, corn salsa I love, and I definitely do a mixture of ketchup and mayonnaise. With all that said, try not to eat a lot of a lot of hot dogs. They're unhealthy as shit. Terrible. And you know me, man. I'm all about fitness.
Get in a penalty box, Prez. I'll talk to you guys later.
Love you, Dave.
Thanks,
Great
Dave.
work as always. And it is penalty box time. Before we get into that, guys, well, Joe, play the music and give me my penalty box, and we'll get into $2. Welcome to the penalty box. The sin bin, as they call it in rugby. Yes, I know my stuff. Guys, before we get into my games, and I got 2 free plays for you all in NHL, I want to point out it's $2 Tuesdays over at WagerTalk, and Dave Koken is the featured $2 handicapper. Dave was the number 1 handicapper in baseball last season, and he's off to a 4-1 start this year. So congrats to Dave on a great beginning. He's the $2 Tuesday handicapper, so head over and grab it. Okay, let's go. Nashville playing Detroit. Detroit plus 140, Nashville minus 160. And I wanted to pick this game because this is the game. Last night I played Winnipeg as my 5% play. The 5% before that I played Florida. One of the things that I am trying to do is play against very bad teams after they win a game. Ottawa beat Montreal 6-4. Then they had to go on the road, play Winnipeg. Winnipeg beat them. Same thing happened with the Florida game. This angle comes into play on this Nashville game. Look, not only is Nashville playing literally outstanding hockey right now, 7 of their last 8 they've won, but Detroit beat Tampa Bay 5-1. That is the equivalent of their Stanley Cup. It is now time to jump off Detroit and onto Nashville. I would take Nashville in regulation tonight, and it's an angle that has gone well for me all year. The other game I want to talk about is the Stars and the Blackhawks, and I want to go to the under 5.5. Both these teams are playing to the under. Chicago has gone under 7 of their last 8 games. The only over was against Carolina 4-3. The Chicago team is struggling to score, which bodes well for Dallas as they're struggling to score as well. They just lost 1-0 to Carolina. Under the total in that game, and Nashville in regulation. Nick Borrman joining us. Excited to have him. Nice beard, Nick. Teddy, before we even get into Nick Borrman, do you know that Nick and I were on a show with Carm about, 9 months ago? His wife didn't know we were taping, walked in and said they were trying to have a baby. So she walked in, literally said, "It's time," in the middle of the show. And Nick was like, "I gotta go, it's time." Well, Nick, how's it going on that front?
I gladly walked out of that meeting, and I'm glad to say that baby number 2 is due in August. So I accomplished the mission.
Good job. Congratulations,
Thanks,
Nick. Nice to see you, bro.
Well, thanks for having me, guys. Masters Week is my favorite.
There's been a couple of crazy things that have happened on these shows, between Nick's wife literally saying it's time to have sex to Tony having a naked guy walk through his living room. Anyway, Nick, Masters tournament. And I was telling Teddy right off the top, I'm pumped about this year's Masters. I don't know why either. Look, I love the Masters every year. But this year, I don't know, there's something in the air, and I think I'm going to cheer for Jordan Spieth, to be honest with you. This guy's had a rough go for the last 3 years, but man, he hasn't missed a top 15 in months. He's playing the best golf he's played in a while, so I'm pretty pumped. But what I want from you is an outright winner.
Well, real quickly on Spieth. One important thing to know about Spieth is it's just important to know who to bet as who not to bet. And I'm not saying don't bet Spieth in certain markets, but outright, nobody that's ever won the week before the Masters has then gone on to win the Masters. So just throwing it out there, a little history to avoid perhaps on Spieth this week. But my outright play this week is I'm looking at Patrick Cantlay. The guy's playing red hot. He's number 2 on the PGA Tour over his last 5 starts in total strokes gained over the field. He's averaging 2.5 strokes better than the rest of the field per round. On the season, he ranks near the top in almost everything. Number 21 off the tee, number 7 around the green, number 8 tee to green, 6 total strokes, blah, blah. 4th in birdie average, 13th in scoring average. He's already got a win, a second, and a third in his last 8 starts, which does include the fall edition of the Masters, which he finished tied for 17th, and he also finished tied for 9th here in 2019. So a lot of good history for him at this course. He's playing very, very well right now. Patrick Cantlay, 20-1 right now to win.
So picking the winner of any golf tournament is not an easy thing to do. When you do it, you're allowed to brag about it on Twitter. You're allowed to, use that as a highlight. But the reality is that for the nuts and bolts of betting, the actual grinding out a profit week after week betting, head-to-head matchups, and all the successful golf bettors that I know focus on head-to-head matchups. I know you do as well, Magic, considering Nick, considering that I know you. Are there any particular matchups that stand out to you for this week when it comes to these head-to-head matchups?
Yeah, you're right. Head-to-head matchups are definitely bread and butter. Matthew Fitzpatrick is a guy that's been playing very, very well. He's paired up. Depending on the books you look at, he's got a couple different matchups. One against Scotty Scheffler. So he's minus 110 over Scotty Scheffler. Cantley, I said he was number 2 on tour over his last 5 starts in strokes gained. Guess who number 1 is? Matthew Fitzpatrick. Plus 2.56 strokes per gained over the field over his last 5 starts. His worst finish was a tie for 17th, which was the match play tournament just 2 weeks ago. But, I mean, the events he's played in are tough and tough fields. The Genesis, the WGC Workday, the Arnold Palmer, and the Players. All very good finishes, all in the top 10. And he's been playing lights out. And he doesn't have a good long history here at Augusta. He only has 1 top 10 in 6 starts. But really, it's all about momentum for me. And Scheffler, I'm fading him this week. He's just not been good with his irons this season. He currently ranks 131st on tour in strokes gained approach. And Augusta is a place where you miss the greens, you pay. And, to make matters worse, his short game has been good, but his putting has been bad. So if you need a lot of 5 to 8 footers for par, which you're going to face a lot over 4 days at Augusta, and you're not making them, it's going to be a long, possibly only 2 days. But if he makes it through the weekend, it's going to be a long 4 days. So I don't think he's going to play well this week. I think Fitzpatrick's going to beat him rather easily over the course of the 4 days, maybe just 2 days.
Nick Borrman, everybody. Guys, I don't know if you know this, but Nick Borrman is a scratch golfer. If we started against each other and he gave me 30 strokes, he would still be minus 800 to beat me. Nick is also, and I could be wrong here, Nick, you are a card-carrying holder, right?
I am a PGA member, yes, indeed.
Yeah, that is awesome, dude. I mean, you're good at that, and I'm good at juggling devil sticks. You win. Let's talk about some of the big boys. Dustin, Bryson. Give us something on them, man. Well,
Dustin, obviously defending champion from 6 months ago, the fall edition. And really, what's not to say about the guy? He, by his standards, he's in a little bit of a funk right now. He only has 1 top 10 in 4 stroke play events since the Masters. But when he comes to Augusta, he plays. He's got 5 straight top 10s in his last 5 starts there at the Masters, obviously including that win. He still, even though he's in a little bit of a funk, still has the 3rd best scoring average on tour this year and ranks 6th in strokes gained tee to green. He's going to be in contention on Sunday, no doubt. DeChambeau, who he's up against in one matchup, I'm not so sure. He's never finished inside the top 20 in 4 starts here. His ability to overpower a golf course really does not help at Augusta. This course is all about shot placement, and if you miss in the wrong places, you pay big time. And I'm worried about him off the tee. I mean, yeah, he might be able to hit a couple bombs on the par 5s, which is important to score on. But if he misses some fairways on some of those par 4s, he could be making a lot of bogeys and losing those strokes that he might gain on the par 5. So I'm not saying DeChambeau is going to miss the cut by any means, but I don't think he's going to be up there in real contention on Sunday. And I think DJ will be. So those are 2 heavyweights paired up against each other. DJ was just around minus 110 earlier. It's crept up to about minus 125. So some money coming in on DJ, but I like him over DeChambeau this week.
Outstanding take, Nick. Did you put ketchup on a hot dog?
I do ketchup, mustard, and relish, but I'm from Iowa. We do things backwards. It's odd,
Yeah. So there you go. Joe didn't like that. We got the buzzer. Awesome work. Teddy, tomorrow's show. No Kelly. She will be back next Wednesday. Brian Leonard will be joining us, and same with Arthur DeCesar. Shout out to Nick, to Steve, to Dave Sharapan. Had a blast. Teddy, take us home, baby.
Sure. Shout out to Nick and Steve and Dave Sharapan. We had a blast. I'm taking you home. Enjoy the games tonight. Good luck. We'll be back again tomorrow, 23 hours and 15 minutes from now, for another edition of WagerTalk Today. Until then, enjoy the games. Good luck.
With a WagerTalk one-day Power Pass, you receive every play from every betting consultant for 1 full day at the ridiculously discounted price of just $149. What's better than spending the day watching and following a great slate of games? Watching, following, and winning those games. Get every WagerTalk expert and every game they release for that day.